All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here with us today. We are so excited to have you and these fabulous guests from Chase. And we are here today because we have Chase for Business, the power of capital. If that's what you wanted to hear, you're in the right place. We're so excited to have you here with us. And I am Terea Miller. I am with GSBA. I'm a director of training and consulting. And I have the pleasure of working with these great folks to give you the education everyone needs today. We have a busy, jam-packed schedule of information that we are so excited to give you. But before we do that, give me a moment to introduce you to the folks that are going to be leading us in our conversation today. With that said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and get in it to win it. So hold on a second. We have with us the magical and wonderful Sheila. And Sheila Winston is, hold on, my little Word document just does not want to play. There it goes. Sheila Winston is a native Washingtonian who believes in going the extra mile to assist others. She has been with Chase Bank for over 11 years and has 23 years of experience in the financial service industry. Her leadership qualities, expertise, and experience has enabled her success towards the many aspects of management, succeeding customer expectations, and building strong financial relationships and professional consulting. So, welcome, Sheila. Next, we have Rocky. Rocky, yay, Rocky is here. Um, and Rocky, with over 18 years of experience in the financial services industry, is a community manager in Seattle, Washington for community and business development. He is a local ambassador for Chase. And you know you're the ambassador because I see you in everywhere in all the postings, whose job is to build and nurture relationships with key community leaders, nonprofit partners, and small businesses at the neighborhood level. Rocky hosts financial health workshops such as these, facilitates nonprofit partnerships, and offers community programming. He's very busy, y'all. He is helping to advance racial equity by supporting Black and Latinx, communities with tools and resources to help them improve their financial well-being. Welcome, Rocky. And last, we have the incomparable Walter Acano. Did I say that right? Acuno? All right. Walter is a Peruvian native who came to the States in 2002 with over 25 years of experience in business development and relationship management within diverse banking segments. He is a senior business consultant for JP Morgan Chase Bank, where he provides technical assistance to small businesses in a variety of topics such as accounting, access to capital, and marketing. Welcome, Walter. Thank you, all three of you. So with that said, we'll go ahead and launch into your presentation. I believe it's Rocky going first for us today. So give me just a moment to get the technical things done here and get you all set up. Okay, Rocky is on. Rocky, there you are. Okay, all right. And we're gonna go to share my screen. Excellent. Boom. All right. Let me know, Rocky, when you can see your presentation.
Yes, I can.
Excellent. I'm going to go into launch mode for you. Hold tight. Okay, that should be able to see it as a full screen. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, you're welcome to go ahead and get started, and I'll control it from here.
All right. Thank you so much, Toria. And hi, everybody. It's a pleasure, definitely, to be on this platform today. First and foremost, again, thank you so much, GSBA, for the partnership and the collaboration for giving us this platform. Some of you might have actually seen me before at some of the Power Connect events at GSBA in the past, or maybe on the Hilltop with the CHBA as well. And you will definitely see me at the upcoming Pride Parade as well. So definitely looking forward to that. With that being said, my first topic of presentation today is about credit. And as you know, as we talk about power of capital, while it's important to make sure that your business definitely have all the right structure and also the right financial to be in the beginning with, also one of the most crucial factor is also about how your credit is looking on the personal side of things. And that's the reason why I'm going to explore a little bit about the credit topics today, just for a little bit, so that you have enough of a structure base to kind of build upon on the knowledge that both Walter and Sheila will be passing on to you afterwards. So with that said, the first thing first I want to kind of talk about is how does credit really impact your financial life? Kind of take a step back and look at your financial roadmap right now and see where you're at. And in terms of a credit point of view, are you currently satisfied with your credit score standing, for example? Have you actually leveraged credit correctly as a tool to help you expand? Or is it currently a burden on your hand based on some of the obligations you're dealing with? Now, no matter where your position is right now, hopefully after our segment today, you'll get some valuable information to kind of get you in the right direction towards where you want to go next after we go over some best practices. So with that said, let's go to the next slide. All right. So in terms of some of the common terminologies around credit, credit itself, of course, is the ability to buy now and pay later. Now, it's a very easy concept to understand, but it's very hard to maneuver and also making sure you are keeping up with it on a daily basis. If we don't actually do a good conscious check and then also making sure we're keeping track of how we're spending, sooner or later, we are actually going to be going out of the budget or in terms of the financial capabilities we're able to handle. And that's where that occurred immediately. And as the snowball effect will start to come in, as the interest rate continue to accrue on a monthly basis. So that's why when it comes down to credit, it's not only important to understand it, but also know how you can maintain a good practice on a daily and monthly basis. And the credit score in general is the three-digit number that pretty much is an indicator towards primarily are you a high risk or low risk borrower in the eyes of the lender. And at the same time, the higher your score is, the better of the credibility you're building for yourself, showing that you're actually capable of handling the financial obligations you have actually acquired to. And then when it comes down to the credit report, it's basically the record of detailed record of the credit history that shows in terms of all the current and past accounts that you currently have, so that it kind of showcase around what your payment structure looks like in the past and present. So your lenders or people that you're going to be dealing with that will look at your credit can have a predicament towards like potentially what this person is capable of when it comes down to the ownership of making sure they're able to repay back what they're trying to do in the near future as well. Last but not least, of course, is the credit bureaus, and they are the agencies that basically capture all this information on a daily and monthly basis. And typically, they are the one who will capture and refresh the record of the credit report every 30 days so that the payment history will continually get updated as long as you're able to keep up with the on-time payment. And that's how you kind of maintain your credit score as well. So they all go hand in hand with each other. So with that, let's go to the next slide. So currently in the country, we have basically three national credit bureaus, and they are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And they are the ones that majorly, bring forth those credit reports that we just talked about on a monthly basis. And when it comes to the scoring standpoint, currently we have two scoring structure that we refer to. The first and foremost is the FICO one, which most people know about because they've been there forever. And the second one is called Vantage Score, which have been established in the last few years because it's kind of similar to why we have three national credit bureaus. Is so that there's another source of scoring structure people can get as a second opinion, just to kind of compare in terms of what the score looks like. And regardless of whether it is a FICO score or Vantage score system, the credit score range generally go from 300 being the lowest to 850 being the highest as well. With that, let's go to the next slide. Thank you. And so, one of the most common questions that people ask is like, how am I being, looked at when I look at my credit score? Where do I belong? So, typically speaking, the credit score range we just talked about can basically be separated into four different zones. So typically speaking, for folks that are between 720 to 850 credit score, you're definitely in between the good to excellent zone, and that's exactly where you want to be. Typically speaking, when you're in those categories already, whenever you're trying to, apply for something that is credit related, or trying to, get a better term when you're trying to look for a credit product, usually not only you have a good chance of success, and of course, depending on also other factors too, such as debt income ratio, but credit plays a big part. But at the same time, because you've maintained a good credit score, so typically the term that you receive will be more favorable to you. Because in the eyes of the lenders, the higher your credit score, the better it shows your capability of able to pay back on your applications. So it's considered at a lower risk in terms of the lender's eyes. And that's why your terms will be more favorable. Now, when it comes down to 660 to 719, that's what we call is a fair zone. And typically speaking, you still have a good chance of approval, yet because there are some factors that's affecting your credit score, could be a late payment, could be too much revolving balances. So therefore, that's why the term that you may be receiving may not be as favorable as the good and excellent zone. And the poor zone between 300 and 659 is where folks will feel a little bit challenged when they're trying to apply for credit. And that's where we can, definitely do some work to kind of help you, get back on track. And we'll discuss that later as well. Next slide, please. And so this is just a quick visual indicator towards like how does that translate into dollar amount. So say, for example, if you want to just borrow $1,000, the average interest rate for 719 credit score person can be only at a 13.5% interest rate. However, for a person with a 580 credit score, it can be as high as 28.5%, which is more than double than a person with a 719 credit score. When we translate that into dollar amount, for a person with 719 credit score, all they need to pay back within the 36-month window is only $1,222. However, for a person with 580 credit score, the amount could be as high as almost $1,500. So think about in terms of the fact that this is just only for $1,000, but in the future, when you're trying to obtain a much larger amount, such as purchasing a home that is worth $500,000 to $700,000, or even other type of credit products that with the same equal amount, think about how much more interest you have to pay back, which is not necessary as long as you're able to maintain a good credit score. So that's why maintaining a good credit score at all times is that much important, because not only will affect your credibility, your your level of being able to approve, but also at the same time helping you to save money, so you have more financial freedom to invest those money in other things as well. Next slide, please. If there's one thing I want everybody to remember today, is basically these 6 factors you're seeing on the screen right now that goes towards credit. So payment history is 40%, as long as you make good payment history on time and no late payments. Congratulations, you get a good chunk of it already. However, utilization is 20% of credit score, which a lot of people don't pay attention to. The golden rule usually is that if you're able to maintain a utilization level less than 30% of your limit, usually that's where you want to be, especially if you know that you're going to be carrying a balance after a 30-day window. So therefore, when you have multiple different types of credit cards or line of credit, be sure you kind of take a good look at what's your limit credit, and then how much you're carrying a balance right now, your utilization, so you can kind of see where you're at on your percentage of utilization. The balance piece, 11%, is basically the brand balance between how much balances equals to revolving balances and how much balances are being represented as installment balances. And in this case, typically speaking, installment balances are the ones that you want to keep because they are installment loans that are being paid off over a good period of time frame that will be able to help you establish a good, consistent payment history, such as a mortgage loan, a car loan, or student loan. For revolving balances, it's basically any type of balances you carry on a credit card or line of credit. So typically speaking, the more higher revolving balances you carry, the more it will impact your credit score in a negative way, because it's showing that you're not capable of paying down the revolving balances that you owe, in which they also include high interest rate as well. So therefore, that's something to really watch out for. And the next category is depth of credit. So basically, long story short, is the longer you've established a relationship with your credit account, the better it would be for the long term, because it will establish a long range of credibility of reference for a good standing of payment history you've established, versus in terms of the ones they've just opened recently. So in the future, whenever you come into situations where you have to kind of consolidate your credit cards because you have too many, or maybe you're trying to refinance and the underwriter is telling you, oh, you might need to close down some of the credit cards in order for you to fit into the debt accumulation model. That's when you really want to kind of look at all the accounts that you have and start with, maybe considering the accounts that you have opened more recently than the ones that you have established forever. Because when you're going to close out, some of the accounts that you have established for a long period of time, you will definitely see an impact on your credit score immediately in a negative way. Now, that's not the end of the world if that is something that you have to do because it will recover over time. But it's just that, as a word of caution, make sure you're aware of what products out there that is active right now that is helping you contributing a positive impact on your credit score. Last but not least, the two other categories include recent credit, which basically is do you currently have any inquiries recently on your credit report? And then also have you applied for anything? And secondly is available credit, which go hand in hand with utilization. It's basically a representation of how much availability of credit you currently have, on your credit account. So all these combines are the factors of why your credit score is being calculated the way that they are. So hopefully that will give you some explanation towards like understanding, why your score is currently the way that it was being calculated right now. And the Vantage score system is also based on these 6 factors as well. And next slide, please. So, such just some good info to also keep in mind is that first off, under the federal law, which is the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it actually gives everybody the right to order your credit report once every 12 months for free. So please definitely check that out if you haven't get a chance to take advantage of that already. First resource definitely is the annualcreditreport.com. So definitely, folks can definitely try to acquire that. Or you can also check out our chase.com/credit journey, which is a great tools for you to also obtain your credit report. But at the same time, we also have other great features, such as, dark web monitoring, for example, so that you can always be, protected if you're a Chase customer already. Next slide, please. And last but not least, in terms of some of the questions that most people also ask about is, what if I have a thin credit profile right now, or my credit score is low? How can I kind of speed up that process to get to where I want to be? So hopefully, these 4 factors can kind of show you the way. First off is, if you currently have any family members or folks that is paying student loans, typically speaking, for student loan, they don't accrue interest or payment until they graduate. And the trick of that is that you can actually start making payments immediately after you acquire the loan itself, so that throughout the time frame when you're going to school or college or university, you can make whatever payment amount you want since there's no obligations. So by the time when you graduate, not only you are able to establish a long history of payments already, but at the same time, you're knocking down the principal balances. So you're reducing the interest you're paying as well on the student loan. Secondly is always try to formulate a discipline where you can regularly pay down or pay off credit card on a regular basis. So say, for example, if you normally carry a balance on a credit card, try to pay it down or pay it off every 2 to 3 months so that in the eyes of the lender, they see there's a cycle, which is exactly what they want to see. So they can see you're capable of actually paying it down or off if you needed to as well. Thirdly, of course, is if you know somebody that that is that are a family member, close friends, or relatives, they can also add you as authorized user on an existing credit card if they already have a good credit standing. So you can use that as a benefit to kind of help build your credit of your own as well. But just a word of caution is that make sure you do hold yourself responsible to keeping on check on making on time payment, because if you do miss one, it will actually affect the person that's adding you on in the first place as well. Last but not least, this is the big one, which a lot of people don't know about, is that if you're currently are renting and don't own a home, you can actually ask your landlord or your property manager to provide that payment record to the credit bureau as well. And also the same for if you currently have other service provider you're paying for, such as utility companies, cable companies, they can also report your payment activities to credit bureaus as well. So all of a sudden, you now can have years of payment history reported to the credit bureau also. And again, just a word of advice, make sure before you do that, you do have a clean record of payment on time, because if you do have late payments on those records, then you'll be doing yourself a disservice by reporting that onto the credit bureau as well. So with that being said, hopefully, those are some good informations, for you to get started, to get a little bit background about credit. And now I would like to turn the floor over to Sheila Winston as she will begin the next segment of our presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Rocky. Hold on just a moment for a brief moment while we had switched the presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing screen, but I want to also encourage, are there any questions out there from anyone? Let's see here. Let me go into the chat and see. Okay, there's a question here. If I have multiple credit cards, Rocky, and always pay them off each month, is it still okay to have them?
That is totally okay. Yeah, if you do have the financial capabilities of paying off the credit card each month, kudos to you. A lot of people want to do that as well. So as long as you're able to make those payment every month on time, whether it's paying down or paying off, that's exactly what you want to do. So keep it that way.
Excellent. Thank you. And what if I have a partner that has poor credit? How will it affect mine if we start combining our credit scores together?
Um, the easiest way is, of course, you can add that person on with an authorized user card to begin with, to kind of help your partner to, start to build that, positive credit history, just to remind your partner, making sure they pay on time, right? Every month. That's the key part. Secondly, is that, like, typically speaking, it won't really affect your credit score until, when, let's say, you guys are trying to, let's say, purchase a home. When you're up combining your application together, that's when, things will be looked at on both sides. And that's when things will probably, you'll start to look at, it more closely, because both sides of the financial status will be looked at. And that's where you will feel that there's a influence on what the terms gotta be, and then also the qualification of it as well, because your partner's financial status is also being in consideration also. So if you think that, like, for example, right now, if your partner have a challenge on on their credit status, I think the best thing to do is to start to look into different ways to kind of get them back on check. For example, if there is things that is being reported on credit bureau as a negative right now, such as a collection or late payment history and stuff like that nature, make sure you get those settled immediately, because those will do wonders on the credit report once they are being disputed. And then secondly, also is just making sure that you start to follow it back on a regular on time payment basis. And then thirdly, if the credit score is being impacted because there are too many revolving balances being accrued on a monthly basis, start to look into maybe different types of products or services that are being offered out there, to see how you can maybe consolidate them, so that you can convert them into an installment loan instead of revolving, so that you can kind of change the scale of how you are being occupied on your debt obligation. So
Excellent. Thank you, Rocky. Okay, we are all set for Sheila to kick in. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen so that y'all can see the presentation. Give me just a slight moment to do that. And I'm going to welcome to the mic Sheila. Are you ready to jump in?
I am ready. Thank you so much, Teray. It's such a wonderful opportunity to be here and to be able to speak for the GSBA. I'm so excited to be here and share the power of capital, which is a long-awaited subject that so many people are interested in. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. First of all, I want to go to the first slide that we have up on the screen, is why we're here. We are having this presentation and doing this presentation because at Chase, we feel that all businesses deserve an equal opportunity to prove themselves in the marketplace. So what does that mean? That means that with the racial equity commitment program that we have, we are giving businesses that opportunity to be able to prove themselves in the marketplace, okay? So why now? Because as we know, the coronavirus, we all link back to 2020, and the struggle for justice continue to change the business landscape. As consultant, I've talked to so many businesses that have to restructure their business and kind of look at things, revamp, strategically plan out how they're going to go moving forward because of what happened during the coronavirus. So the information you're going to learn today will help you better navigate those challenges and be able to help you to really give a strong examination of your business. Okay, so starting out with this presentation, fundamentals. Fundamentals still matter. You're going to learn time-tested approaches that can help any business owner gain traction in times of crisis and times of calm. So the fundamentals are very, very important because that's the structure of your business, and that is an area that we always have to make sure that that's strong. What I tell a lot of business owners is that is a platform for where your business should be built upon. Okay, so next slide, please. We took a survey back in 2020 with the Barlow Research Associates, and they found out that 39% of minority-owned companies actually feel their primary bank contact treats their business owners with respect. So in that survey, that's a pretty low number. 39% is not good. It's not even 50%. So with that low number, what happened was Chase wanted to definitely change that percentage and see if we can get a little bit higher and go out to the field and start making more connection with business owners and letting them know that they have a point of contact, and that as a bank, we will start to treat them with respect, and hopefully that number will definitely go higher. So, okay, next slide, please. So the banking industry in general has underserved minority entrepreneurs, and we, as I shared, feel that we definitely want to change that. From the survey, from what a lot of minority companies feel out there. And that's why I'm so proud at the work that I do as far as going out there, giving them one-on-one mentoring and coaching to be able to change that mindset and to be able to give them the attention that they need as a business to continue to scale. So next slide, please. So what I like to do is take a quick survey, and you can put the answers in the chat if you're able to, or if you want to just think about the answers if you're not online. And the question is how confident do you feel about your knowledge of business credit options? On a scale, are you not confident at all? Do you know a little? Are you ready to dig a little deeper? Do you have a solid base of knowledge? Are you very confident? Where do you fall on that survey? Okay, Torea, could you read me some of the answers in the chat, please?
Absolutely. We have a few of them come through. We have some that are very confident, and then we have some that, they're right in the I'm ready to dig a little deeper.
Okay.
Just a little bit. So I think we got a good cast today.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. All right. Also, I wanted to share with you that my pic. Are you able to see me? Because I'm able to see you, Teray. I'm not sure if they're able to see me on the screen.
They definitely can see
Oh,
you.
good. Okay.
Well,
Well,
they may. Well, in the recording, they'll be able to see all of you. So
okay. Gotcha. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Perfect. All right. So next screen. Glad to see that there are some that want to dig a little deeper. So what the whole aim is with this presentation, that we're hoping that we can answer some more questions and move you up the scale so you can feel a little bit more confident. Okay, so that's what our goal is to try to accomplish today. So what we're going to cover today, we have 7 different parts. We're going to cover part 1, think strategically about cash flow. Part 2, does your business need to borrow? Part 3, why are you a good investment? Part 4, what financial data is important? And part 5, what are your credit options? Part 6, SBA loan programs. And part 7, begin building your own empire. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and start off, and then my partner Walter Acuna is going to finish up. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first 3 slides and 4 up to slide section 4. Okay, so thinking strategically about cash flow. Okay, so what is cash flow? Basic. Cash flow is much more than money in the bank. And what do I mean by that is a lot of times talking to businesses over the years tell me, well, yeah, I've got cash flow. And I say, what do you mean by that? Well, have you seen what's in my bank account, right? The money in your bank account is not just the cash flow. It's the money that moves in and out of your business, okay? It's the money that you want to use to pay your suppliers. It's the money that you want to use to make sure that you have enough money to pay employees, rent space, and reinvest. Next slide, please, Torea. Next slide again, please. Okay, so let's go through those different areas a little bit about that. Okay, when I say it's money that comes in and out of the account, for example, pay suppliers. Okay, so when you pay your suppliers, that's money that's going to go out, obviously, because you're saying pay. A healthy business should have all those categories, money constantly coming in and out of the company. Okay, that is going to be accounts payable when you have to pay your suppliers. Another thing that money is going out is you have to pay your employees. That's money that's going out. Another thing that goes out, you have to rent space. That's money that's going out. And then you have to reinvest. That's also going to be money going out. Where it turns around, it's also money coming in. You have to have the money coming into the business to be able to pay your suppliers, pay your employees, rent space, and reinvest. So the cash flow of your money is constantly coming in and out of the business. And how can you use cash flow? Make sure that you have a healthy area in all those different categories as far as paying your suppliers, your employees, renting space, and reinvest. And if you look at your workbooks in the chat, I'm not sure if you're able to share those with them, Torea, the workbooks. Okay, on part 1, page 3, okay, they kind of tell you those different categories, how you can manage cash flow. The first thing that you want to do is always examine your cash flow, because the bottom line is you want to make sure that you have enough money in your business to properly run it and to be able to make a profit. So you always want to look at how you can cut overhead and unnecessary spending, how you can take advantage of mobile apps and online banking, move more quickly, negotiate your payments and your vendors, prioritize revenue collections using digital payment tools, sell or scale inventory of non-essential assets, adopt a leaner staffing model, forecast the coming months to plan for ups and downs, and utilize effective cash management. Okay, so all of that is on page 3 in your workbook, and it tells you how you can examine those different areas and how you can make sure that your cash flow is effective. Because again, cash is what is going to definitely fuel the business. Okay. Next slide. Not sure where. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about a little bit about Bright Tech. Bright Tech is an IT firm that was profitable and they were still going out of business. The question is, even though they were a startup, they were going out of business. Do you have any idea why an IT company, which we know IT companies in the past and even still hopefully today are profitable, and they have niche in the startup scene and they're still going out of business? Any ideas of what possibly could happen or why that is? Does anyone want to take a stab at it? Anyone in the chat?
I'm looking and I'm not sure if we have anything at the moment. I think everybody's stunned. An IT business going out, maybe because of cash flow problems? Don't know.
Absolutely, absolutely. The actual story is in the workbook. And to make a long story short, what happened was she did not keep track of the money going out of the business. She thought she had more money in the business. She did not have a good process of being able to track her accounts payable and her accounts receivable. So therefore, she's going out of business. She thought she had a lot of money in there, was not having an effective process. So what we're trying to do today is teach you an effective process for cash flow so you don't get into the same thing at Bright Tech. Think that money is in there when it's really not in the bank. Okay. So next slide, please. So cash flow, like I shared before, needs to be managed. Number 2, you need an efficient process for your payables and receivables so that can help better manage the timing of your revenue and expenses. So basically, you want to make sure that you understand what money is going out of the business and what money is coming in the business, and that you have a good process in place for your revenue and your expenses. Expenses, a lot of times, is what is going out of the business. So make sure that you go through, you're always examining what those expenses are. And if there's any way that you can cut the expenses, make sure that you're able to do that. And then number 2, borrowing capital strategically can help ensure you have cash when you need it. So if you need to borrow, don't be afraid to apply. A lot of businesses have what we call a business line of credit. And what a business line of credit does, it basically helps get them through the cash flow crunch, because there's so many days when they collect before they receive, and there's payments that need to be paid. If you have a line of credit, you can actually borrow against that, and it kind of helps to bridge the gap so that you are not late on your payables. Okay. So make sure that you know when to borrow and that you do have the money there when you think it is there. Okay. So part 2, we're going to go into that. Does your business need to borrow? That's a good question. Okay. As a business owner, a lot of times businesses want to get a loan. They think that's the answer to all of their issues when it comes to borrowing. But the question is do you really need to borrow? And the primary question that you always have to ask yourself is that, remember that when you borrow capital, you need to have a plan to pay it back. Okay. That is the biggest thing that a lot of times companies don't recognize. My example for that is I had a company that wanted to borrow a loan. They wanted to get a loan to borrow. And when I told them what their payments were, they had no way to pay it back. So they recognized it wasn't time. So make sure that you do your research and that your cash flow is strong and that you understand that you have to have a plan to pay it back. Because that's really huge when it comes to loans. And what we do is a lot of times we'll do desk reviews, we'll talk and we'll consult with people to make sure that they do have a strong plan to pay it back and that their business will not go negative in trying to get lending before it's too soon. Okay. Next slide, please. So what lenders need to want to know. Okay, when you want to borrow, there's certain questions that lenders actually want to know. And I'm going to go through them really quickly. Okay, how long have you been in business? Okay, so how long have you been in business? A lot of times lenders want you to be in business at least 2 years. Reason why is because you'll have actual financials in the business. You'll have your tax returns, hopefully, and you'll have your profit and loss, and you'll have your balance sheet. And they want to know that you have a good track record as far as money coming in, that the business is profitable, that you don't have a lot of negatives on those numbers, that you have strong profit loss and your balance sheet is looking good, that you don't have more debt, but that you don't have too much expenses. All of the above. They want to take a financial forecast on what you're looking like as far as your financial health. So make sure that you have that. And the reason why is how long you've been in business, because the longer you've been in business, the more financial they'll have to be able to examine. Number 2, like I shared, is your business profitable? Okay. What I do is I go through a lot of the tax returns and kind of look at the tax returns and the line as far as where your net is to see whether or not it's a positive or negative number, to see if you're actually profitable, to see if you're making a profit. Or even when you look at your P&L, is there a positive number at the end of your P&L? Are you profitable? Make sure that you don't have negative numbers, okay, in there. That's the main thing that underwriters want to see. They want to see positive, powerful, strong numbers. Number 3, is your business seasonal? That's something that you always want to let the underwriter know. A lot of times businesses are seasonal. Contracting businesses have more peak times when they bring money in and more down times when they don't. And a lot of retailers have peak times and down times. And a lot of that is very important when they're examining your financials, because if you give them your quarterly financials, which they oftentimes will request, the next quarter may be stronger. So you may want to turn in more to show them that there is a lot of seasonality between the business. I just talked to somebody today that told me that their peak months are summer. Why? Because the nature of their business brings in more people to be able to buy. So again, look at the seasonality of your business. And if it is, make sure that you let the underwriters know that. Next, do you need to build credit? A lot of times people ask me, how much credit should they have? What I've been told, at least 4 or 5 trade lines, so that they can examine and see what your credit score is looking like. On the personal side and the business side, you want to make sure that you have enough credit built for them to be able to see your credit history. A lot of times what lenders will look at is what we call historical cash flow data, and it's based on how you're paying things back, what kind of credit you have, whether you have a credit card, whether you have a line of credit, whether you have a loan, whether or not you've been late, and just make sure that you want to have, again, positive numbers in that so that you can be very, very strong candidate to be able to get a loan. Okay. Another thing, when you do your loan, if that's the route that you want to go for a line of credit, are you looking to expand? Okay. If you're looking to expand, you want to make sure that you let them know how you're going to expand the locations, how the business is going to be ran. A lot of times if the decision makers in one state and they are going to expand to other states or other locations, how that's going to affect the business. Are they going to have the proper people in place? All that should be taken into consideration. Okay. And then also another thing that you may want to look at if you're going to get new equipment, is that going to help your business? So if it is, how is it going to help your business? It's going to be paid out, but how is it going to bring money in? So all of that is things that you want to let the lenders know when you go ahead and apply for the loan, because a lot of times that's what they'll make their decisions on. They want to make sure that you have well thought through the whole process, you have a plan to pay it back, and you've taken all these questions into consideration. Okay. So before I go on, I want to ask the group, is there any questions? I'm kind of going through a lot here. Does anybody have any comments or any questions out there?
Oh, Sheila, you gave us so much yummy goodness here. I do have a couple of questions. You mentioned trade lines earlier. What is a trade line?
A trade line, well, but basically, as far as money that you have, as far as okay, so a trade line, you want to know at least 4 to 5 credit trade lines. I think that's what I had shared as far as accounts. You want to make sure that you have credit built up. So you want to at least be able to show the underwriter that you have a history. So you want to make sure that you have enough things out there that show history, whether it's a credit card, whether it's a line of credit, something that they can measure to see how you've been making payments. So you want to at least have something to show, to make sure that you don't have any late payments, 30, 60, or 90-day lates. Make sure that you can show that you have strong credit out there.
Oh, so I get it. A trade line is kind of like having a credit card. So 4 or 5 credit cards or lines of credits. It's
Mhm.
something in there that's showing on my credit report. Does that sound
Correct.
about
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
my other question is you talked about cash flow, and I have a question. If we have a business and
Mhm.
it's just starting out, so within the first couple of years, right? And
Mhm.
we show a little negative cash flow, and we're kind of projecting in our second year to be a lot better, no
Mhm.
negative cash flow, but let's say our first year, we're in the first year. We
Mhm.
have negative. Is that going to be something that the loan officer or underwriter is going to consider?
Well, oftentimes with our SBA, okay, we do have SBA that we offer too. They like to see positive trends and positive cash flow. So a lot of times that may be taken into consideration. They do typically like to see at least 1 year to 2 years of positive cash flow, but that is taken into consideration to answer your question, because they realize that a lot of times your first year, you're not going to possibly be as profitable as you think you're going to be. So as long as the other years, that's why you have to be in business more than 1 year, show more of a positive trend, they can take that into consideration. And then that goes into what I call the mitigation field, where the loan officer would have to mitigate that with the underwriter, let them know, okay, yes, they started off with this cash flow year, but now they, kind of started to be profitable. And now their trend is to continue to be profitable. And this is what their current interims, which is your profit, loss, and financial sheet, look like. So you can kind of, like say, get around that first year.
Great. Thank you. Great. Thank you
Okay.
so much for all those wonderful answers. Okay, I'm ready to turn you
All
back
right.
over to your presentation. I think that's all the questions we
Perfect.
have at the moment.
Okay, thank you so much, Jerry. I appreciate it. Great questions. Okay, so we're going to look a little bit about what is credit. So what is credit? Okay, so credit has a lot of meanings. And in this presentation, we're going to look at credit from the standpoint of credit worthiness and your history. Okay, we're going to use credit between a borrower and a lender. Okay, because a lot of times character is something that banks look at as far as whether or not they want to lend to you. Okay, so, and I'm going to use you as an example, Terea. If I went ahead and wanted to borrow money from you, I want to borrow $100. The first question you may ask, well, I don't mind giving you the $100, but who is she? Is she going to pay me back? What's her character like? What's her reputation like? So, in doing that, if you hear that I have a negative reputation and you don't really know me, what are the chances of you lending me that $100?
Probably not at all. Mm.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. And thank you so
But
much
I
for your
might ask
honesty.
some more questions if somebody recommended you.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. And banks look at that the same way. They look at your character. They want to know that you have good reputation, that you are active in the community, that people know you, and that it's a good risk. Because the main thing that lenders have in mind when they do credit is risk, right? The chances of me paying Terea back if I got a horrible reputation is not good. So therefore, it would be a risk for her to take to give me that $100. So that's how I want you to look at the situation when it comes to lending, is the fact that they want to know and be confident that you have the capacity to pay it back and that you have the credibility to pay it back. Okay. So basically, again, the agreement between a borrower and a lender, it should be strong and it should be solid. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you for participating, Terea, in my example. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is look at the bigger picture. And if you guys go with me again to your workbooks, there's a worksheet where it talks about look at the bigger picture. And in looking at the bigger picture, there's different things that you want to kind of look at. And you can answer these questions when you get a chance on your own. And it's a good question to ask because it will really position you to ask yourself if you're at a point where you can borrow. Okay. Questions are really, really keen here. The environment, key question is how has the last year changed the way you think about your business? And we know that there's been a lot of changes and a lot of restructuring. Who are your competitors? You know, have you done a competitive analysis? Do you know whether or not you are in the right competitive landscape? And how does a business play a positive role in the community? As I shared before, what type of community projects are you getting involved in? Are you in the community? Are you involved in different things going on throughout the community? Okay. So just make sure that you have time to fill that out. That those questions are very good when it comes to environment, when it comes into your operations. The key question on that is what steps have you taken to prepare for setback? Do you have a plan or are you planning to wing it? I mean, if you have to really kind of prove yourself, because again, those are questions that may definitely come up when you're thinking about trying to get borrowing or if the underwriter has those questions. And then, another one that's really huge is how confident are you in your supplier's ability to deliver? Do you have a strong relationship with your supplier? Are you sure that they're going to be able to have the ability to deliver with everything going on in today's world? And then the last area, sections is the opportunity. Who are your customers? How have their lives changed in the past year? Have your customer base gone down? Has it increased? Is it questionable? Again, because as we know, customers are needed because we need to have customers to be able to repay loans and lines back. So again, these are just really good questions to ask yourself when it comes to you preparing for a loan. And I just want you to kind of take a quick look at them. And as I shared at the end of this presentation, make sure you find time to do it. And so you can continue to move forward. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and go to section 3, which is very important. Looking at credit. Who are you as a leader? Okay. Why are you a good investment? What I tell people, the reason why you're a good investment is because you are the owner of the company. And without you, the company would not exist. So you're definitely a good investment, right? You're the one that thought of the company. You are the one that is in charge. So if you're interested in applying for credit for your business, you'll need to prepare for 3 basic categories to be able to address that: your leadership qualities, your cash flow, and your collateral. Okay. So I kind of want to go through the next slide. I think goes through them, Terea. Okay. Like I said, your business strongest asset. Let's talk a little bit about leadership. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about leadership. Okay. So leadership is a bank wants to know why you're the right person to lead this business. Okay. And when it comes to leadership, what I tell a lot of my mentees is that you want to show that you have experience. You want to show that you know what you're doing. You can even show that in the form sometimes of a resume, or you can even show that in the form of, looking at your website, all your experience. Make sure that you have something to let them feel comfortable in knowing that you are the right person to lead this company. If you go to, again, your workbook on page 9, it talks about leadership, and it said some of the things that the bank wants to know is, like I shared, how long have you been running your business? Do you have a resume? How did you decide to start this business? How is your credit history? What's your mission statement? You know, your mission, vision, and goals. You may want to make sure you illustrate that. Show them again that you have really thought through this whole thing and you are a strong leader. Another thing is cash flow. Okay. Cash flow is the critical to your ability to secure a loan. Why? Because it's the critical health of your business. And it is, again, what underwriters look at as far as whether or not you're positive or you're negative and how you can manage your company. So you want to show that you have strong numbers. And if you have negative cash flow, it may not be time to apply for the loan because unless you can mitigate it or it's a one-time thing that's not going to continue, that's going to put flags in the underwriter's mind. So make sure you have strong cash flow. And then collateral. Collateral is, it includes assets with cash value, and its collateral can make it easier to get a loan. So collateral is very, very huge because a lot of times collateral, even though they don't always give it the whole 100% value, will help as a mitigant because they look at, you know, what you have as far as maybe what your inventory is worth, what your equipment's worth, things like that is huge when it comes to collateral. As far as a building, collateral is really important as well because the collateral is going to be the building. So collateral is also a strong thing that a lender will want to make sure that you have in place and want to make sure that it has a strong cash value. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit now, getting back to Rocky's wonderful presentation, the importance of credit. Okay. So the two things that they look at is your credit score or your business credit score, your personal credit score or your business credit score. And some institutions only look at one or the other. I like to tell people to keep both up. Reason why is because I learned years ago that some underwriters, depending on the type of loan or line of credit that you're applying for, may ask for information on both. Okay. So you don't want to just lean towards one and not the other. Because I know a lot of times with lending institutions, they might want to look at the business credit score, but they also may want to take a peek at your personal. Okay. If you're going to get a business credit card, then a lot of times it's all your personal before you build the credit up for your business. So again, what I'm going to recommend is that you pretty much keep a strong score on both of those. Okay. And the personal credit score is tracked by your social security number and typically represents a score between 300, 850, and also is known as a FICO score. Okay. And so basically your personal credit score, again, on page 10, let's go there. What they want to look at is your payment history, your current level of indebtedness. You don't want a lot of debt. The types of credit is used for, the length of the credit history. Okay. The reason why they want to see the length of the credit history because they want to see how you've been making your payments and how long you've had it. If you just have gotten the card or you had it for years, you know, you want to make sure that you have a strong, healthy length on the credit history. New credit accounts. Again, if you have too many new accounts and you don't have a strong history, they may not be to your favor. So that's what we're looking at on the personal side. Okay, and then business credit scores. Okay, so business credit scores are tracked by your employer identification number, which is your EIN, and it typically ranges between 1 and 0, although to single organization provide a centrally recognized score. So basically, the business credit history is tracked by the Small Business Financial Exchange, and they use identifiers such as employer identification number, which is your EIN, and the SBFE, Small Business Financial Indicator. It does not create business scores and no single organization, but provides a centrally recognized score, and a general business credit score is based on, number 1, again, your payment history. Number 2, again, your age of credit history, your debt and debt usage, your industry risk, and your company size. So let's talk a little bit about industry risk, okay? Some industries, whether it's fair or not, I'm gonna be totally honest with you, underwriters look at as far as higher risk than others, okay? Reason why is because a lot of times what happens is the financials are not solid, and so there's more gaps in certain industries. So they want to make sure that, you know, that your industry is not going to be in trouble. So again, some industries are stronger than others. They like consistent, constant cash flow. So whatever industry you have, a lot of times service providers, such as medical industry is what we would call a strong industry because it's a continuous thing. It's money coming in on a constant basis. Some industries that are seasonal, depending on the weather, depending on the time of, the season or whatever the case may be, are higher risk because of inconsistent cash flow. They may not get their accounts receivables paid to the following year and not the current year, different things like that. So again, that's something that they look at as well. And then the size of your company, how big is your company? Is it growing? Is there more than one vendor that you're able to get money from? Could that possibly pose a risk if that vendor did go out of business? There's all kinds of things that they're going to look at when it comes to your company, how it's ran, and just what you're doing in your operational side. So keep that in mind as well. Okay. And then the next score, please. Next slide, excuse me, please. We're going to go through financial data. And here is the section I'm going to turn over to my wonderful partner, Walter Acuna, and I'm going to let him take it from here.
All right. Thank you very much, Sheila. I'm very glad today to present, to GSBA with some vital information that is going to be really helpful, as I said, and we're going to dig a little bit more into depth, with this information. So what financial data is important? Next slide, please. So in order to get some credit, there are important financial information that your loan officers are going to ask. And why do they ask this? Because they want to feel confident that extending credit to your business will pay off. If for whatever reason the numbers are not there or something, instead of helping you, providing some kind of credit, that can also hurt you. So if you think about that, sometimes, if we ask for money, as Sheila mentioned, that we cannot pay back, that's going to get us in trouble. But the numbers are going to help us. So let's go into a little more details about what they are going to ask. Next slide, please. So one of key important elements are the tax returns. In quite tax returns, personal and business tax returns. They are very important because these are actual information that you send to the IRS. So again, in theory, these should be accurate and they should be in order because, these are reported to the IRS. And in addition to that, there are additional information that they are going to compare, like, for example, financial statements. And we're going to do, next slide, please. We're going to dig into that. There are some key information there, like your income, your expenses, and things like that they are going to compare. Like another important document are the balance sheets. So the balance sheets are pretty much a financial statement that is going to show how much assets and how much liabilities your company has. Now, we mentioned the tax returns before because in theory, again, and I say in theory because balance sheets, sometimes they are incorporated in the tax returns and sometimes they are not. So sometimes they don't show. So if that information is missing in the balance sheet because it's not required sometimes, again, to report that information to the IRS, that's why the bank is going to ask additional, the balance sheets. And again, why is this important? Because as Sheila mentioned, about cash flow, for example, if you are having some debt, that means that you are currently repaying that debt. So you should have enough cash to pay your current debt. Now, if you're asking for an additional debt, an additional loan, your cash flow needs to be enough to pay current debt and future debt. And again, the balance sheet is going to help you to determine, the bank to determine how many trade lines you have right now and how much are your current obligations. So that's one. The other part is, we talk about the assets. As the balance sheet is going to show the assets, the assets can be used as collateral. As Sheila was mentioned, this is very important because, if you have inventory, if you own the building, if you have equipment, all this information is going to be shown in the balance sheet. And again, it's going to be helpful so we can determine if we can use that as collateral. Another thing important to think about is sometimes if you already have some trade lines, if you have vehicles or, as I said, equipment or inventory, and you already have some kind of credit, we need to be sure that, that collateral is not being used by someone else. So that also, as you present the balance sheet to the lender, they're going to ask you some question and say, hey, I noticed that you have an equipment. I noticed that you have a car. do you have loans on this equipment? Do you have loans in this car? So to determine, what collateral is available to you. And one last piece on the balance sheet, sometimes when we have like a LLC as a corporation, the owners or the shareholders can do draws out of the corporation, out of like dividends. So the balance sheet is going to show us also how much money you're leaving in the company and how much money you are taking out of the company in addition to your salary. So that's why it's also important. Next slide, please. Another important piece of information is your profit and loss statement. As I mentioned in the beginning, your tax return, it should be reflecting of your profit and loss statement. Now, there's some information that you can include in your tax return that you don't have to have in your profit and loss, because this is, again, through the IRS. But the reason why most likely banks are going to ask, banks or any other kind of financial institution ask for profit and loss statement, is because they would like to compare, let's say usually the profit and loss in the balance sheets and the profit and loss in the tax return can be off, couple $1,000, something like that, because some adjustments that you did to the statements in order to put in the tax returns. But when they're off like by large amount of monies, like let's say 20,000, 50,000 or more, then there are some questions, how reliable your profit and loss statements are. Because again, for example, if you're going to ask for a loan like in October, so they ask you for the last 2 or 3 years of tax returns and profit and loss. And then in October, the only way to know how your business is doing is asking for your profit and loss statement. And if with the previous year, your profit and loss statement is a little off or is largely off, then the question is, are your profit and loss from September that we are asking you, are they off also? How accurate they are, because again, the only way for the lender is getting the information from the profit and loss, how much money your business is making. So we need to be sure that everything is accurate. So it's a really good exercise for the business owner to review those and see the accuracy of their statement in order to get the maximum loan when it's time to apply. So accuracy is very important. Next slide, please. Now we talk about information that lenders are going to ask. Let's talk about your credit options. What is out there for your business? What's the best option for you? Next slide, please. So there are a lot of ways your business might be able to access capital. As I said, there are different credit facilities out there, a line of credit, term loans. There is also some asset-based lending, those type of things. So let's get into it. The first one is a business credit card. The business credit card is pretty much a credit card, like a personal credit card that can be Visa, MasterCard, and then you can use it anywhere they accept this card. What are the benefits of this card? That you can have easier cash flow management, has convenience and control. You can access through your credit card online. They have services security. If there is some kind of transaction that you didn't authorize, you can dispute them, get the money back. And in addition to that, you can get rewards. Rewards means like for each dollar that you spend, you can get some cash back, or you can get some points if you have like a airline credit card. So and again, a credit card has a limit and you cannot go more than the limit. But again, in theory, you should be using your credit card and paying it off at the end of the month. If you do that, you're not going to pay interest expense. If you keep balances there, you're going to pay some kind of interest, The other credit facility that we have is our business line of credit. So what's the difference between a business line of credit and a credit card? So the credit card is a physical card that you can use. The business line of credit doesn't come with a card. It's just a line of credit. It's like an account. You have your account at the bank, and then you can transfer that money into your checking account, and then you can write checks anywhere you want. So or you can transfer money or pay out of your line of credit some other obligations, so that's the main difference. What are the benefits about this? These can be funds for emergency expenses. Now, if you have a business line of credit, usually is cash. A business credit card, if you want to go to the bank and withdraw cash, usually the interest rates are higher. So that's another difference between a business credit card and a business line of credit. Business line of credit, you can access cash anytime you want, and that's why it can be used as a operating capital, and it's good to pay it on time. And another thing is sometimes the business line of credit depends of how big is the line. The bank is going to ask you for an annual review. So again, you have to have in order your profit and loss statements, balance sheet, and all that in order to renew the line, and it's good, again, it's good for this credit facility to pay it over time. It's like the main purpose of that line of credit is to make it revolver, to go up and down paying and stuff. You cannot just have an X amount of there and no revolving. That's a kind of not a good practice. Next slide, please. So another credit facility are business term loans. Term loan is a loan that you get and has a term. That can be 5 years, can be 10 years, 30 years, depending on the type of loan you get. Usually for working capital, 5-year term loan, 7-year term loan. If it's an SBA loan that we're going to talk about this in a little bit, can be up to 10 years. But a business term loan, again, is a term loan. You have a loan for X amount of years, and then your payments are fixed for that type of for that long period of time. The difference between a term loan and a line of credit is you use the loan to purchase something, and then you cannot reuse the loan as you are paying back. It's just one purpose of this loan, and then you pay back through the years. It's a fixed payment. Usually, we use this type of loan for large purchases like equipment, real estate, inventory. We can also use this for capital for expansion and growth. That's another benefit. And the big benefit is that you have a long and more predictable repayment schedule. So if you have a term loan and the payments are $300 for 5 years, those are not going to change. Now, for whatever reason, you said you have some extra cash and you want to pay the loan back faster, you can apply it to the principal. But again, the monthly payment is not changing. So if you have, let's say, a 5-year term loan and you have a couple $1,000 to put in, you pay it to the principal. And then instead of paying it for 5 years, they say that the loan gets reduced to 4 years or 3 years. Your payment are going to continue to be the same, but the length of the loan is going to get shorter as you pay if you do payments on the principal in advance. Next slide, please. Another additional sources of capital, in addition to banks or credit unions, we have CDFI loans. A CDFI is a community development financial institution. I got a little confused for a minute. Community development financial institutions. So these are non-profit organizations that are available for the community, and they do non-traditional lending. So if for whatever reason, a loan get declined through a loan, through a bank or a credit union because of there is not enough collateral, that credit score is not there, or maybe this is a startup in a line of business that is a little too risky. CDFIs are your best option. They're going to be able to help you as they do this type of lending, a little non-traditional. Another option is venture capital. Venture capital is pretty much an investment in your business. Sometimes they ask for a percentage of your business. Depending on the type of business you have, you might be able to access to this kind of capital. And the last one is small business grants. Sometimes once a year, some of the big companies out there or non-profit or even the government provide some kind of grants. Like Homecast is one of them, for example, that they provide a grant every year to grow your business. You need to write some kind of essay, show some kind of financials and what are you going to do with the money. But these are really good options. Again, these are available in the community. So it's a good opportunity to, browse around once in a while and see if there are some grants available out there. Next slide, please. So let's talk about SBA loans. Next slide, please. So SBA loans are loans that are backed up by SBA, Small Business Administration, you know. And usually this type of lending help you with qualifications that that for whatever reason the business is not eligible yet through normal lending channels. You know, again, maybe it's a startup in a high risk type line of business, or maybe the credit score is not there, or maybe just, you know, it's the business itself is considered too risky, or maybe there is a shortage on collateral. So an SBA loan is a really good option for lending. And something important to mention is SBA is not going to do the loan for you. Usually banks, credit unions do the loans, and the SBA is going to guarantee a portion of the loan, which make it, you know, more attractive to the bank. If for whatever reason the loan fails, SBA is going to pay sometimes 80%, 85% of the loan amount to the bank, so mitigate the risk of failure of the business. Next slide, please. So we have, again, you know, as I said, mitigates the risk of the business. Some of the benefits is sometimes they give more time to pay off that loan. You know, like for working capital, usually banks do 5-year term loan. SBA can go up to 10 years, for example. Usually they have lower down payment. You know, if there is a startup, usually banks ask for 20% down, SBA asks for 10% down. You know, you can include the fees in financing. You know, again, sometimes banks ask for those fees in advance, so that's part of the equity, owner's equity in the business. In this case, you can finance those through SBA. And the other benefit, as I mentioned before, you know, the collateral. If the collateral is not there, SBA can help, you know, providing the guarantee to the loan. So if the collateral is a little shorter, you know, it's okay. Next slide, please. Now, who is eligible for SBA? So first of all, the SBA loans are available for for-profit businesses. It's important this to say, you know, with less than $15 million in tangible net worth, and that generate less than 5 million average net income over the past 2 years. So if you see, there is this is a big range of businesses that qualify, you know, because if need to have less than 15 million, you know, pretty much like a lot of business owners get there. And again, less than 5 million average net income, there is also a lot of businesses that, you know, qualifies. It's pretty much available for every small business out there. Next slide, please. All right, let's talk about the type of SBA loans out there. One of them is the SBA Express. SBA Express is a loan that you can borrow up to $350,000 as a term loan or a line of credit, but it has a quick turnaround. So they are going to ask for, again, documentation that we mentioned before, but it's going to be quick. I believe this type of loans, you can get it within like 2 weeks up to 3 weeks is pretty fast. You know, but you have to have your documentation on hand in order to qualify for this or to make it pass. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a case study. Again, this is in your workbook. I believe it's on page 16. So in talk about an SBA Express, you know, the company Gypsum in January was asking for $200,000 and got 10% down in finance the fees for a 10-year term. You know, 10% down is lower than usually banks ask, you know, which is 20%. So I encourage you to read the case study on page 16 of your workbook. Next slide, please. And then we have the SBA 7A. The SBA 7M is a term loan that can go up to $5 million and depend on the purpose of the loan. If it's for working capital, you can go up to 7 years. And if for your real estate, you can go up to for 25 years. And again, this is great. Again, the interest rate are fixed, you know, and I believe SBA guarantee up to 85% depending on the loan amount, you know. Next slide, please. And this is another case study for a 7A SBA. It's a kick it. Again, this is for a business purchase. SBA loans can be used for business purchase. If you want to purchase a business or you want to purchase your competition, you can. And then, of course, you can finance with SBA. In this case, it's 40,000 down and got a 10-year SBA loan for $400,000. And again, SBA went up to 10 years, even though it's working capital because of the SBA guarantee. Next slide, please. Another SBA loan is the SBA 504. Usually, these are for commercial real estate, which needs to be owner-occupied. Owner-occupied is when the business occupies 51% plus of the building. In this case, is for long-term financing. The interest rate is fixed. It can be used to buy, to expand, and to renovate those buildings. There is no maximum loan amount. And SBA and lender each make a direct loan for a portion of that total amount. Usually an SBA 504, there is a CDC involved, there is another institution involved in the loan. So there is pretty much two loans with this type of lending facility, the bank and the CDC. But again, the interest rate right now, I believe are kind of low, like 3 or 4%. And that's the last time I saw, even though we have higher interest rate in mortgages, the 504 has lower interest rates. So it's really, really attractive loan. Next slide, please. For commercial real estate. And this is another case study, MDA design. This is on page 17 of your workbook. It's for a 504 they use for $1 million loan, putting just 10% down and a 25% year fixed loan. Now, if you notice, when you do a commercial real estate, usually it's 25 years, which is different than a regular mortgage. A regular mortgage for a personal property is 30 years, so it's 5 years less. Next slide, please. All right, so with this being said and all the presentation, we are almost done. It's time for you guys to build your own empire. If you need capital, I believe these tools are going to help you a lot. And I know it's a lot of information. So, Sheila and myself are available for any question you have, or maybe anybody has some questions already. So next slide, please. All right, so Sheila started with, a question to the crowd about the confidence of knowledge on business credit options. So now that you guys hear the presentation, how confident do you feel about the knowledge of business credit options out there? 1, be not confident at all, and 5, very confident. So I'd like you guys to think about that. If the information we provide today was helpful, and you have any questions, I'm more than happy to help. I don't know, Toraya, maybe you have any questions so we can share with the group.
Oh my goodness. Wow. My mind is exploding with all the information that you're providing today. Thank you so much. Coming in, I think people are feeling a little bit more solid. They have a little bit more solid base is the average thing here. Some have just grown with even more knowledge over the information. One of the questions going back to both Sheila and you is, as we are thinking about business owners going into the bank and they're pursuing either an SBA loan or a business line of credit or even a term loan, is it recommended that they have a business plan available or put together?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, go ahead, Sheila.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I can actually speak to that. That's definitely going to be to their favor to have a business plan, because in my presentation, I was sharing that they want to make sure that you have a well thought out plan. And part of that is the business plan. They want to see that you've really taken time to build your business. You've done your profit loss, balance sheet, whole statements in the business plan, as well as you even doing your mission goals and your everything as far as your statements in there. So you want to just show that you have a strong plan, that you have a strong marketing plan. I actually have a template that I'm happy to share with anybody that wants to have a good example of business plan. But yes, it's definitely to their advantage, Teray, to have a business plan. Thank you for asking that. it's very, very important.
Can I add a couple of things about the plan? Sometimes people think like that the bigger the better, and sometimes it's not the case. The plan needs to be that the lender can understand, the plan, make it simple. And of course, I know some business owners are there sometimes hire someone to help them or to make them the plan. And I don't think that's a good idea. The business owner needs to be involved. They need to know what's in there, so then when they talk to the lender, they actually talk about, what is in there, and they know what's going on, and they explain with their words, the plan. So that's important.
I love it. Thank you. That is so important to know. And then a question that came through, and by the way, Sheila, we do want to get that template from you. So go ahead and email me and I'll make sure that gets out to the folks. But the
Perfect.
other thing
Yeah.
I wanted to ask is, you talked about the SBA loan and having documentation. What can, specifically like the SBA Express loan, what type of documentation should I be thinking about putting together or having ready when I approach that?
Yeah, so for an SBA loan, usually last 3 years business tax returns, last 3 years personal tax returns, last 3 years financial statements, profit and loss statements, balance sheets, and then year to date, profit and loss statement, balance sheets. Now, in addition to that, SBA has some forms that you need to file. Personal financial statement is one of them, and there are some loan about that you're not eligible for any other place for an SBA for a regular loan. And then some additional questions about what are the key partners in the business, key persons, or some SBA specific forms that you need to sign. I guess, some people think like there is a lot of paperwork, but they are really important for SBA. And that's pretty much it, Again, as mentioned, Sheila mentioned, have your plan ready, and that's it. That's it. If they ask for additional information, you need just to provide, and that's it.
Right. And the only thing I'm going to add to that too, thank you, Walter, is also some institutions only want 2 years of the financials. And so if you can show 2 years of financials where you're looking profitable, and then your interims, your profit and loss and balance sheet are also looking positive, that might be instead of the 3 full years. So.
Oh, good. Okay, so there's options that you can put together, especially if you're coming
Absolutely.
around the bus after that 2-year mark. You want to have a little something there for them.
There
I
you
love
go.
it. I love it. Okay, so Walter, did you have more on the slides that we should go back into, or are we
I
good?
think that's all. Yeah, that's the presentation.
All right, I will go ahead and stop sharing at this time. I just chock full of all the info. I just love it. I love it. Thank you so much. On behalf of GSBA, we are so excited again to have this information available to our small businesses. It's such critical information that is needed for them and their survival. I know that Rocky has something that we want to put up at the end. So without further delay, give me a moment to get that up. It is your post survey, if I remember correctly. Give me just a moment here. I am going to share my screen just so that I can show it to all the folks. Okay, y'all should be able to see this. It is a QR for folks to use. And we certainly invite you to go out and utilize this QR. Let us know how we did. Let us know if you have any more information you want us to talk about. All the yummy goodness. We just need to know from you. So with that said, again, I just want to give a heartfelt thank you from all the folks here at GSBA. We will have this recording available for folks to see in syndication, and go back and rewind and play again and rewind and play it again so that they're all ready when they come back to you to explore those new financial instruments. It's going to be great. And I just can't wait to see folks that come back to us and say, you know what? I got that SBA loan and it's working for me. I cannot wait. All right. So again, just greatness here. Thanking Sheila Winston, Rocky Fung, and Walter Acuna from Chase for Business. And I look forward to additional ones coming in the future. And I just appreciate you today.
Right, thank you.
Thank you so much.